The Valorian homeworld burned from above. Explosions lit up the sky as hegemony ships dropped weapons onto cities. People ran through the streets. Buildings fell. Smoke covered everything. In the command center deep underground, the council members watched screens showing their world being destroyed. They had no way to stop it. Speaker Amara sat at the head of the long table. She was tall, with skin that shimmered in the light. Her eyes were fixed on the display showing enemy ships entering their atmosphere. Around her, other council members argued. Some wanted to surrender. Others wanted to fight until everyone died. All of them knew the truth: they were going to lose. General Chorus stood up. He had commanded the Valorian military for 30 years. His face was hard and cold. He had seen many wars, but never anything like this. The hegemony was different. They had ships that moved faster. They had weapons that hit harder. Most of all, they had soldiers who did not break, did not get tired, and did not show fear. "We have 3 hours before their ground forces reach the capital," Chorus said. His voice was rough. "Our defenses are failing. The outer cities are gone. We need to make a choice." "We fight," one council member said. Her name was Petra. She was young and still believed victory was possible. "With what?" asked another council member, an old man named Victor. "Our fleet is broken. Our soldiers are tired. We have nothing left to throw at them." Amara raised her hand. The room became quiet. Everyone looked at her. She was the leader. Her words had weight. "There is one option left," she said slowly. "We have the emergency beacon, the old one from the ancient time." The room went silent. Everyone knew about the beacon. It was a story, a myth, a legend told to children. "The beacon is broken," Victor said. "It has not worked for 1,000 years." "We fixed it," said another voice. A young technician named Clara walked into the room. She was nervous, but spoke clearly. "We repaired the beacon 5 years ago. We wanted to be ready for any emergency." Chorus shook his head. "The beacon calls to a species that does not exist. The Deathworlders are a story. Nothing more." "Then we have nothing to lose," Amara said. She turned to Clara. "Send the signal." Clara looked around the room. No one stopped her. She nodded and left the command center. Her hands were shaking as she walked. She knew what she was about to do. She was about to call for help from beings that might not be real. Or worse, they might be real and might not come. Clara reached the ancient tower that held the beacon. It was older than any building in the city. The beacon itself was small, almost simple. Just a box with lights and controls. She had worked on this machine for 5 years, learning its secrets. She knew it better than anyone. She turned the power on. The lights came alive. The machine hummed. Clara took a deep breath and pressed the signal button. A message flew out into space, traveling faster than anything physical could move. It was a call for help. It was a desperate prayer. Up in space, the message traveled through the void. It passed empty planets and dead moons. It traveled for hours, carrying the voice of a dying world. Back on the Valorian homeworld, the explosions did not stop. A bomb hit the command center building. The whole structure shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Cracks appeared in the walls. "We are running out of time," Chorus said. He was right. They had maybe an hour now. Amara closed her eyes. She had made her choice. The beacon had been sent. Now there was nothing to do but wait and fight. Far away, past 7 different star systems, on a human colony world called New Terra, a ship received the signal. The signal was old. It was made using an ancient code that humans had created long ago. Most people in human space had forgotten this code. but the people who received it knew what it meant. Commander Lisa Duncan was in her quarters when the alarm sounded. It was a sound she had never heard before. The alarm meant something was wrong, something serious. She ran to the bridge of her ship, the Thunder's Pride. "What happened?" she demanded. "We received a distress signal," said her communications officer, a young man named Aaron. "It came from the Valorian sector. They are under attack." Duncan looked at the data. The signal was real. It came from a civilization that had contacted humans 50 years ago, then disappeared into their own space. Now they were calling for help. "How bad?" Duncan asked. "Complete invasion," Aaron said. "Multiple battle groups. They are losing." Duncan knew what this meant. The Valorians had refused to trade with humans. They had treated humans like children. They had said humans were too young, too dangerous, too unpredictable to be trusted with real weapons. They had laughed when humans asked to join the Council of Worlds. Now they were calling for help. "Send a message to all fleet commanders," Duncan said. Her voice was strong. "We are mobilizing. Full battle readiness. We move in 30 minutes. The bridge of the Thunder's Pride exploded into activity. Alarms sounded. Ships started their engines. Fighters were loaded with weapons. Crews ran to their stations. Humans had not fought a real war in years, but they were ready. They had always been ready. Duncan looked out at space. She thought about what this meant. The Valorians had called them Deathworlders, a name meant to scare and insult. They had said humans were too wild, too violent, too willing to break rules. They had said humans could not be trusted. Now the Valorians were about to learn what Deathworlders could really do. The human fleet launched. Ships broke orbit and burned hard toward the Valorian sector. It would take them time to get there, but they were coming. The old legend was walking back into the galaxy. And on the Valorian homeworld, Speaker Amara felt hope for the first time in hours. Maybe the old stories were true. Maybe the Deathworlders would answer the call. Maybe there was still a chance. The battle above the Valorian homeworld continued. But now there was more than just death and smoke. There was the possibility of salvation. There was the unknown power that was coming from the stars. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace above the Valorian homeworld. 57 ships. Some were big. Some were small. All of them looked built for one thing, only to break things and kill enemies. On the Valorian command ship, every officer stopped what they were doing. They stared at the screens. "What are those?" General Chorus asked. His voice was hard and flat. "Human ships," Clara said. She had been watching the communication channels. She was the first to understand. They answered the call. The Deathworlders came. Chorus could not believe it. He thought it was a trick. He thought the Valorians had sent a signal to nothing, and now nothing had shown up. But it was real. The ships were real. Speaker Amara stood up. She had hoped for this. She had believed in the old stories. Now the stories were true. "Open a channel to their commander," Amara said. "Welcome them." The communication officer worked fast. A video screen came to life. On it appeared a human woman. Her name was Lisa Duncan. She was not what anyone expected. Duncan had short dark hair and a hard face. She wore a uniform. Her eyes were sharp and cold. She looked like someone who had killed before and would kill again. "This is Commander Lisa Duncan of the Human 7th Fleet," she said. Her voice was calm and flat. "You sent out a distress call." "We are here." Amara moved closer to the screen. "I am Speaker Amara. I thank you for coming so fast. We are under attack from the hegemony. They have... I can see their ships." Duncan cut her off. "We can see everything from up here." "How long until their main forces reach you?" 2 hours, Chorus said. He was not happy. He did not trust these humans. Then we have 2 hours to plan, Duncan said. I am sending my ground commander down now. We will defend your cities. We will kill the hegemony troops. Tell your people not to get in our way. The screen went dark. Chorus turned to Amara. She is rude. She is acting like she is in charge. She is right, Amara said. She has soldiers to send into battle. We should let her do what she does best. 30 minutes later, Captain Ryan Harper landed with his first group of soldiers. There were 200 of them. They moved fast. They moved hard. They moved like machines. Harper himself was big. His face was scarred. He wore battle armor that looked heavy and mean. He carried a gun that was twice the size of what any Valorian soldier used. He met with Chorus in a command post. Chorus had brought 5 of his best generals. They wanted to understand what the humans could do. Harper looked at the maps on the walls. He understood the situation in seconds. The hegemony was coming from the north and east. They had 3 main attack groups. They were moving in a pattern that had worked for them 100 times before. They move like machines, Harper said. He was studying the maps. Everything is planned. Everything is calculated. They don't change. They don't adapt. They have never lost, one of the Valorian generals said. Their soldiers are bred for war. They are faster, stronger, and smarter than most species. Harper smiled. It was not a kind smile. Then we use that against them. We do something they don't expect. We do something crazy. We do something no smart species would do. What do you mean? Chorus asked. Harper turned to look at him. We make them think. We make them question. We break their pattern. The hegemony only knows one way to fight. They will not know what to do when we do something different. Harper moved fast. He placed soldiers in positions that made no sense to the Valorians. He put heavy weapons in places where they would be hard to defend. He scattered his soldiers across the landscape instead of keeping them together. Every choice was wrong by military logic. But when the hegemony attacked an hour later, something happened that nobody expected. The hegemony soldiers moved forward in their perfect formation. They found weak points in the human positions. They should have broken through. Then the humans attacked from 5 places at once. They used weapons that were old and new mixed together. They moved in ways that ignored all standard military tactics. They fought like they were crazy. The hegemony soldiers stopped. For the first time in their lives, they were confused. They did not know what to do. While they thought about what to do, humans killed them. In the command post, Chorus watched the battle on screens. He saw his own soldiers fighting beside the humans. The humans were not following any plan. They were not following any order. They were just fighting. They were hitting hard. They were not stopping. But then something else happened. A young Valorian soldier was trapped. A hegemony soldier was about to kill her. A human soldier, a big man named Derek Walsh, ran toward the danger. He was exposed. He was unprotected. He was going to die. But he did not die. He killed the hegemony soldier and grabbed the young Valorian woman and pulled her to safety. He had risked his life for a stranger. Chorus had never seen that before. Valorian soldiers were trained to survive. They were trained to win. They were not trained to die for someone they did not know. After 3 hours, the hegemony attack stopped. They pulled back. Hundreds of their soldiers were dead. The humans had lost many too. But the hegemony had never pulled back before. They had never retreated. They had never given up. Harper met with Chorus again. The human commander was bleeding. He had been hit in the arm. But he was standing. He was walking. He was talking, you see? Harper said. His voice was clear. They think we are crazy. They think we will die for nothing. They don't understand. We don't fight to kill the most enemies. We don't fight to show we are strong. We fight to protect people who can't fight. We fight because some things matter more than survival. Chorus looked at this scarred, bleeding human. He looked at the soldiers around Harper. They were tired. They were hurt. But they were ready to fight again. You will fight with us? Chorus asked. He was asking for help. He was asking for something that Valorians never asked for. We are already fighting, Harper said. We will stay until this is over. We will stay until your people are safe. Amara sent out a message to all Valorian citizens. The Deathworlders were here. They were fighting. They were fighting hard. For the first time since the hegemony came, there was hope. The first battle was over. But more would come. And with every battle, the Valorians would learn more about the humans. They would learn what it meant to have the Deathworlders on your side. They would learn that sometimes the strangest creatures in the galaxy were the most valuable friends. You could have. The night fell on the Valorian homeworld. In the darkness, humans and Valorians stood together. Tomorrow would bring more fighting. Tomorrow would bring more death. But tonight there was something that had not existed before. There was a chance. The hegemony launched their main assault at dawn. Every ship they had came down at once. The sky turned black with falling metal and fire. The ground shook with explosions. The Valorians braced for the end, but the humans did not wait. Commander Duncan's fleet moved fast. The human ships flew in patterns that broke every rule of space combat. They came at the hegemony from angles nobody expected. They fired weapons in bursts instead of steady streams. They moved while they shot. They stopped while moving. They made no sense that the hegemony ships returned fire with perfect precision. But the human ships were already gone from where they had been. The hegemony fired at where the humans should be. The humans were always somewhere else. On the ground, Derek Walsh commanded the main defense line. He was a big man with a scarred face. He had fought in 7 different wars. He had killed more enemies than most soldiers ever saw. Behind him stood 400 human soldiers and 2,000 Valorian troops. They were dug in behind heavy fortifications. They were ready to hold the line. The hegemony ground forces came forward in waves. They were exactly what everyone said. They were faster, stronger, and more skilled than almost any other soldiers in the galaxy. They came in perfect formation. They used perfect tactics. They looked like they would break through anything. Walsh saw them coming. He waited. He let them come closer. And closer. And closer. When they were 200 meters away, he gave the order. The human soldiers stood up and attacked. Not backward. Forward. Straight at the hegemony lines. It made no sense. The hegemony had the better position. The hegemony had more soldiers. The hegemony had better weapons. Any logical commander would dig in and defend, but Walsh did not believe in logic. He believed in hitting hard and hitting fast. The Valorian soldiers watched in shock as the humans ran straight into the hegemony guns. Hundreds fell. The humans screamed. The humans died, but the humans did not stop. The ones in front fell, and the ones behind them came forward. They came with everything they had. They came like water flowing over rocks. They came like an animal that did not know how to quit. The hegemony formation broke. It was supposed to be unbreakable. It was supposed to be perfect. But it was not prepared for suicide charges. It was not prepared for soldiers who would die to move a few hundred meters. The hegemony soldiers started to pull back. It was only by a few feet. But it was a retreat. Walsh kept pushing. He hit them again. And again. And again. Half his soldiers were dead or wounded. But the hegemony line was cracking. In the city, power generators supplied energy to the energy shields that protected the people. One generator was on the front line. The hegemony wanted to destroy it. They knew if they destroyed the generator, the shields would fail. Then they could kill everyone. Derek Walsh saw the danger. He saw the hegemony concentrating their fire on that location. He knew the generator had to stay online. He called Captain Ryan Harper. "The north generator is falling," Walsh said. His voice was hard. "We need it. The whole shield depends on it." Harper understood in 1 second. The generator was surrounded. The position was surrounded by enemies. The only way to defend it was to defend it from inside. The only way to defend it from inside was to go to that position. And that position was a death trap. "I am sending a strike team," Harper said. "We will hold it." Harper took 20 of his best soldiers. 20 soldiers in a city full of thousands of enemies. They moved like shadows. They used the buildings for cover. They moved between explosions. They killed every hegemony soldier who tried to stop them. Behind them, Walsh and his troops pushed the hegemony line back. Step by step, meter by meter. The ground turned red with blood. Above, Duncan's fleet was winning. The human ships had destroyed half the hegemony fleet. The other half was backing away, trying to regroup. But on the ground, it was still a war. It was still a battle. People were still dying. Harper reached the power generator with his 15 remaining soldiers. 2 had died on the way. The others were bleeding. They were tired. They were out of time. The generator was surrounded by a fence. Hegemony soldiers were coming from all directions. Maybe 100. Maybe more. "Set the charges," Harper said. "We're going to blow the fence and set up a perimeter." The fence exploded. Hegemony soldiers came running. Human soldiers started firing. The bodies piled up. 1 human soldier went down. Then another. And another. Harper was hit in the leg. He kept fighting. 1 human soldier ran out of ammunition. He picked up a hegemony weapon. He kept fighting. They held for 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes. But in those 10 minutes, the main human line moved forward. The hegemony was pushed back. The pressure on the generator position lightened. Then the Valorian relief force arrived. Fresh troops. The hegemony soldiers pulled back. They stopped their assault. They pulled away. Harper and his people fell to the ground. Most of them were still breathing. Most of them were still alive. In space, the hegemony fleet was in chaos. They were losing. They were actually losing. Something that had never happened before was happening. The hegemony fleet was retreating. Duncan sent another wave of human fighters. They chased the hegemony ships. They killed more of them. The hegemony fled deeper into space. On the ground, the battle was over. The hegemony had failed. Chorus walked to where Harper was lying. The human captain was bleeding from 6 different wounds. But he was smiling. "You held them," Chorus said. There was something in his voice that had not been there before. Respect. Real respect. "We did what we came to do," Harper said. His voice was weak but clear. "We protected your people. That is what humans do." A young Valorian soldier named Kale came running. He had seen the strike team. He had seen how many times Harper and his soldiers should have died. They should have been destroyed. But they had stayed. They had fought. They had won. Kale looked at Harper like he was looking at something legendary. Something impossible. The sky above the Valorian capital was clear now. No hegemony ships. No explosions. Just empty sky. For the first time in a week, the Valorians could breathe. They could believe they would live. They could believe they would survive. And they had the Deathworlders to thank for it. The battle was not over. The hegemony had failed to break the main line, but they still had strength. They still had ships. They still had soldiers. They were preparing another attack. This time, they would come with everything they had left. Harper was in the medical center. Doctors worked on him. He had too many wounds. Everyone knew he should be dead. But he was not dead. He was alive. He was recovering. Duncan visited him. She came in her flight suit. Blood was on it from the space battle. How bad? Harper asked. He could see it on her face. Bad, Duncan said. She did not lie to him. They have one more assault coming. A big one. They are throwing everything at us. Harper tried to sit up. Pain hit him like a hammer. He sat up anyway. The main power core, Duncan said. The one that supplies the whole shield network. The hegemony has a target lock on it. If they hit it, the shields go down. Then they hit the cities. Harper understood. He knew this was coming. He knew the hegemony would not quit. How long? He asked. An hour, Duncan said. Maybe less. Harper looked at the doctors. Get me out of this bed. You cannot move, one doctor said. She was Valorian. She had kind eyes. I am not asking, Harper said. He pulled off the medical equipment. He stood up. His legs almost failed. He caught himself. I need soldiers, he said. The best ones. People who have already died once and came back. People who do not know when to quit. Duncan nodded. She already knew what he was going to do. She did not try to stop him. Harper gathered 20 soldiers. Not the fresh ones. The ones who had scars. The ones who had fought in the first battles. The ones who knew what dying felt like. They moved to the main power core. It was protected by walls and soldiers. But the hegemony was coming with a force that could destroy anything. Numbers that could break any defense. The power core was inside a fortress. The fortress was designed to hold 1,000 soldiers. Harper had 20. We are going to die, he told his soldiers. He said it clearly. He said it like it was the weather. Yes, sir, they said. They understood. But we are going to die slow, he said. We are going to kill as many as we can before we fall. We are going to make it cost them everything they have. The hegemony attack came at midday. Thousands of soldiers. Hundreds of fighters. The sky filled with weapons and explosions. Harper's 20 soldiers stood in the fortress. They had guns. They had ammunition. They had nowhere to run. The first hegemony soldiers came through the gates. The humans killed them. Then more came. The humans killed them. Then more, and more, and more. It was like a tide. Like water trying to break through a dam. The humans were the dam. They held. They killed. They died. After an hour, 12 humans were still standing. 12 humans and one captain who should have been dead. The hegemony commander made a choice. He sent more soldiers. He sent everyone. He wanted to break through now. He wanted to end this. The humans made a choice too. They decided to break the hegemony will. They decided to make them understand that some things could not be broken. Harper walked out of the fortress. He walked into the open. There were hegemony soldiers everywhere. He walked toward them. He walked slow. He had a weapon, but he did not use it. He just walked. The hegemony soldiers opened fire. Bullets hit him. He fell, but he got back up. He walked forward again. He was bleeding. He was dying. He was walking anyway. A young Valorian soldier named Kale saw this from where he was fighting. He saw the human captain walking toward death. Walking like it did not matter. Walking like something else mattered more. Kale made a choice. A choice that Valorians did not make. He ran toward Harper. He ran into the line of fire. He ran toward danger. He reached Harper. He grabbed him. He pulled him back. A bullet went through Kale's arm. He did not stop. He pulled Harper back to the fortress. The other humans covered them with fire. For 5 minutes, they fought like they had nothing left to lose. Because they did not have anything left to lose. The hegemony soldiers stopped coming. The commander of the hegemony ground forces made a report to his superiors. He reported that they had failed. He reported that they had lost thousands of soldiers. He reported that they could not break through. He reported something else too, something that the hegemony had never seen before. He reported that they had faced soldiers who did not understand how to quit, soldiers who walked into certain death, soldiers who would save strangers even when it meant dying. He reported that he was pulling back in space. The hegemony fleet saw what was happening. They saw their ground forces retreating. They saw human ships pushing forward. They saw that they were losing the war. The hegemony commander in space made a decision. He called a retreat, not a tactical pullback, not a regrouping, a full retreat. The hegemony fleet turned around and jumped to hyperspace. They left. They ran. The Valorians watched them go. They watched the human ships follow them, firing until the hegemony disappeared. It was over. In the fortress, Harper was barely alive. His wounds were bad. His body was broken. But he was alive. Kale sat beside him. The young Valorian's arm was bandaged. He had been shot to save a stranger. It made no sense. It was not logical, but it was what humans did. It was what heroes did. Duncan came with Amara. They looked at the human captain. "You won," Amara said. "You saved my people." Harper smiled. It was a weak smile. "That was always the point," he said. "That is why we came." Kale looked at Harper. "Why did you walk out into their fire? You would have died." Harper looked at the young Valorian. "Because sometimes," he said, "you have to show them that something matters more than survival. You have to show them that courage is real. You have to show them that your people are worth any price." "You were willing to die," Kale said. It was not a question. "Yes," Harper said. "For your people, yes. That is what being human means. We do not always choose the smart choice. Sometimes we choose the right choice." The hegemony never came back. They had learned something that day. They had learned that the Deathworlders were real. They had learned that humans would fight for anyone. They had learned that fear could break a perfect soldier. And they had learned that they could lose. Harper woke in a Valorian hospital. 3 weeks had passed. His body was healing. It was healing better than the doctors thought it would. The Valorian medicine was advanced. It was powerful, but what kept him alive was not the medicine. It was knowing that the war was over. It was knowing that the Valorians would survive. It was knowing that the Deathworlders had come and the galaxy had learned what they could do. The door to his room opened. Kale walked in. The young Valorian had been to visit every day. "You are awake," Kale said. He smiled. It was a real smile. "I am alive," Harper said. "Your doctors are good." "You are alive because you are human," Kale said. He sat down in a chair. "You are harder to kill than anything else alive. You fight when you should retreat. You stay when you should leave. You choose death for your people." Harper did not know what to say, so he said nothing. He just nodded. "I spoke to my commanders," Kale said. "They want to send soldiers to Earth. They want to learn to fight like humans. They want to understand how you do what you do." "You can come," Harper said, "but you cannot learn it from a book. You have to understand why. You have to believe that something matters more than your life. That is the first step." On the Valorian capital, the celebration was starting. The hegemony was gone. The invasion had failed. The war was over. Speaker Amara met with Captain Victoria Monroe. Monroe was Harper's second-in-command. She had led the space battle. She had destroyed the hegemony fleet. "We want to offer the Human Republic a treaty," Amara said. "A mutual defense agreement. If one of us is attacked, the other will come to fight." Monroe smiled. "That is a good treaty," she said. "But we want something more." "What?" Amara asked. "Trade," Monroe said. Your science with our hard work. Your healing technology with our weapons. Your people with our people. We need to be more than soldiers. We need to be friends. Amara thought about this. She thought about the scarred human commander in the hospital. She thought about the young soldier named Kale who had run into certain death to save that commander. She thought about the wave of humans charging into guns. Yes, she said. We can be more than soldiers. We can be friends. The treaty was signed in the great hall of the Valorian capital. Amara put her name on it. Monroe put her name on it. The two civilizations that had never worked together were now bound together. Humans would come to Valorian space. Valorians would go to human space. They would share knowledge. They would share strength. They would share their lives. The news spread across the galaxy. Every species had heard about the hegemony. Every species feared them. Now every species heard that the hegemony had been beaten. Beaten by a species they had never seen as a real threat. The Deathworlders were real. And they had made a new ally dot in the hospital. Harper was getting stronger. He could walk now. He could move without pain. In a few weeks, he would be back on his ship. But before that, something happened. A ceremony. A formal event. Harper stood in the great hall. His uniform was pressed clean. His wounds were healing. He looked like a soldier who had come through battle. Amara approached him. She was alone. "I want to thank you," she said. "My people would be dead without you. My children would not be alive. My cities would be destroyed. You came from another world and fought to save us." Harper said nothing. He just listened. "We do not understand humans," Amara said. "We do not understand why you would fight for people you had never met. We do not understand why you would die for strangers. But we have learned something." She stopped and looked at Harper's face. "We have learned that strength is not just weapons," she said. "Strength is the choice to fight for what is right. Strength is the willingness to die for something bigger than yourself. Strength is humans." Harper nodded. "That is what we are," he said. "That is what all humans are." The celebration continued. Human soldiers and Valorian soldiers stood together. They had fought side by side. Now they were friends. Now they were more than just soldiers. They were family. Kale found Harper later in the hall. The young Valorian had questions. "Why do you do it?" Kale asked. "You did not know us. You did not owe us anything. You came anyway. You almost died. Why?" Harper put his hand on Kale's shoulder. It was a human gesture. Kale understood it meant respect. "Because we can," Harper said. "Because we are strong enough to choose to help. Because every time we choose to help, we become stronger. Your people have power. You have knowledge. You have strength. But what you did not have was the choice to walk into danger for someone else. Humans have that. We chose to use it for you." Kale thought about this. He thought about the human captain walking into the hegemony guns. He thought about the human soldiers charging forward when they should have retreated. He thought about all the choices humans made to save people they did not know. "I want to be like that," Kale said. "I want to understand that kind of strength." "Then come to human space," Harper said. "Learn our ways. Fight beside us. Become one of us." The night fell on the Valorian capital. The celebration continued. But in the sky, something important was happening. The first human and Valorian ships were joining together. They were boarding each other's vessels. They were learning each other's languages. They were becoming one force. The message went out across the galaxy. The Deathworlders had won. The Deathworlders and their new allies were standing together. Any species that thought they were weak would learn the truth. Humans were not the strongest because they had the best weapons. Humans were the strongest because they chose to protect others. They chose courage. They chose to walk into danger. They chose to fight for what mattered. And now the Valorians understood. Now the galaxy would understand. The age of the Deathworlders had begun. And it had begun with a choice to help. With a choice to save. With a choice to be something more than just soldiers. It had begun with humanity.